So this week we have something a little bit different for you guys. Matt and his family have been sick. Please pray for them. And so in lieu of a regular episode, what we decided to do is drop part of an episode that's been behind the paywall on the Patreon. Now, if you think of our show as the car talk of the Reformed world, then I think you could say that our Patreon is when we go to the bar afterward. We're a little bit more loose, we're a little bit more free, we're a little bit less constrained, and that's because the audience is also a lot smaller. And so this gives you a little taste of what some of that is like. Just to set it up a little bit, this is an episode where we reacted to a clip that was going around of Matt Chandler warning everybody about the Republican Party. This happened a bit before the election, so you can hear us joking, not knowing where the election was going to go. That will be in here a bit. And it's somewhat freewheeling, but we're also reacting to this particular clip. I didn't include everything. If you go to the Patreon and you sign up and you listen to this episode, it's actually slightly different. I cut a few things out. But for the most part, this is the episode as it appeared on the Patreon. Remember, if you go to patreon.com/The Restless Podcast, there is a backstock of multiple years worth of content just like this. So if you like what you hear, this is also an opportunity for you to see what it would be like to join the Patreon. With that, I hope you enjoy it. We'll be back next week, Lord willing, with a new episode. Here is Matt Chandler on Republicans.
A small Cambridge inn called the White Horse. The Reformation came.
Restless is raw, unscripted, reformed radio. This content, it may only be appropriate for Restless Patreon audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised, especially if you're a big Matt Chandler fan. Pastor Michael, it's election season. It's a hard time. It's a hard time.
Also, are we doing that? This is coming out before election season. Yeah, this is patrons, right? So
yep. So we'll put this.
I was just confused, everybody, because we just did some recording that's going to be coming out after the election, and so that's why I was confused.
So we just probably the Patreon that will have come out before this was our Ray Ortlund take. So we'll do 2 weeks on American politics here in the Patreon. So last week, as of this recording, so on October 17th, Matt Chandler preached a sermon, and I have no idea what it was about. But here's a clip that was shared on X by one Megan Basham. We can read some of her commentary if we think that'll be interesting. But here we go.
In 1972, go read their charter. Not a single word about God or abortion in there. They were losing elections.
He's talking about Republicans, by the way.
Of course he is.
They developed a strategy in the 70s to co-opt us and make us their people. They know we're easily manipulated. We are easily worked into a frenzy. We can be controlled by them. They can, and that's what they did. And they are not for us. They do not all believe what we believe. This is a strategy. So I feel used by them. When they talk about us and to us, I feel in my guts like, get my name out of your mouth. You do not represent me.
Get my name out of your mouth.
So why I started to laugh is Matt Chandler's whole thing is manipulation, right? It's just him up on a stage getting really excited and passionate, and he's moving back and forth, and like it's pure manipulation. Right. And he's like, I don't like that they thought that we were easily manipulated when that's my whole strategy for growing this church. I don't like that they used my strategy to get so many people to follow them. That's a little bit about how it feels, like this is mega church evangelicalism is one of the most manipulative movements in the history of the world. And you're mad because some Republican strategists were smart and were like, hey, we should court the vote of these people. Like that, come on.
But wait, Pastor Michael, it's actually a little more it's a little bit more interesting than that. So he mentions, if you look at their party platform in 1972, there's nothing about God or abortion.
Well,
Pastor
Roe versus Wade.
Pastor Michael, what year was Roe versus Wade?
I believe it's 1973, right? Or was it 1975?
Roe v. Wade, the decision, let's make sure I get this right. I don't want to guess and then be corrected.
Maybe it was
1973. He picked legitimately the year before Roe v. Wade.
Oh boy!
To read the Republican platform and call it out.
National Committee's platform, right? Like this is not. He's not reading like a state charter.
Yes, he's reading.
We're talking about the national platform before abortion was a national issue.
Right. So, Pastor Michael, what is the goal of this kind of statement made on Sunday, October 13th, 2024?
It literally is just to try, knowing that evangelicals are generally a voting bloc for the Republican Party. All of this is simply an attempt to try to get them not to vote. That's it. Or at least not to vote Republican. It has nothing, like it very much encourages, probably in some ways, voting Democrat. But I think the goal is obviously to keep people from voting Republican.
So this was week 1 of a sermon series. Oh, wow. Let me pull up the intro to this sermon series to try and understand what possible, could I'm going to let my
a sermon series building toward the election.
I'm getting an Eric Hovde ad here. I'm letting play through. Let me as a pastor in Wisconsin describe the problem the Republican Party has. But my goodness, why does everyone who run for major office as a Wisconsin Republican some out of state rich guy? It is unreal.
Right, so all that this is inside baseball for patrons of Wisconsin politics. But all of our liberal governors or senators, they're all they wear Wisconsin culture like a skin suit, right? Like they're too folksy Wisconsin to be real. Like it's all this put on fake, I'm just, they just act the part almost. But it's mostly a lot of it's women, but a lot of it's really weak seeming men. And then the Republican Party in Wisconsin is well, the people we need to fight back against that is, Matt's right, it's always out of state, incredibly wealthy, businessmen that have zero connection to the average Wisconsinite at all. Nobody cares. This guy, it couldn't be less like the average blue collar Wisconsinite. And then they cut, that's who they always choose.
And especially interestingly, if you can accept it, friends, Tucker Carlson just did I listened to a speech he did in Wisconsin where he was talking about how there are many great things about this state. He called it his second favorite state. And he said, what you need to start figuring out how to do, and he was talking about in the election, but into the future, is how do you protect the kind of community you have?
Yeah.
And I actually think that is a very resonant kind of message for people in Wisconsin. That's what I found fascinating about it, not his particular political things. But as you know, that is why the Liberal Party here, everyone is like literally one of the Democrat candidates here, she's fairly young, and the ad for her is her working 9 to 5, and it's her like literally working at a restaurant and milking cows and being like, and now she's gonna go to office.
Yep.
And so if the Republicans, I mean, maybe they'll hear Tucker Carlson. If they actually have that as a goal, which I'm not even claiming they do, they may
No,
not at all.
I think they're pretty. I think Wisconsin Republicans are generally completely out of touch with the regular person.
And so if that were their goal, it would obviously not make sense then to say we need to just find anyone who's got a ton of money who will run. And I don't care if they've been living in California for the last 10 years and just can't get elected there. Maybe we can try them in a battleground state.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
It's crazy.
So, Pastor Michael, here is the description of this sermon series. We'll see how long it is. There's no other leader in history who has leveraged all power, privilege, and position for the good of humanity like Jesus. That's an interesting way to phrase the word.
In other words, this is it's our politicians aren't our kings, only
right.
Jesus is. Like,
but what do the rest of us do in him when he isn't on the ballot? What do we do? Do you know that little clip is literally like, what do we do when Jesus didn't bring the kingdom the apostles thought he was going to bring before he ascended into glory? Something we got to figure out.
We got to figure it out, I guess.
and it's
so bad. It's so bad. This is why, by the way, hey, especially like if you're a younger guy interested in ministry, heading to the ministry, I guarantee you'll feel a lot of pressure from people to be political at times in your preaching, and not even necessarily like the bad kind of political. I even mean like the guys that I would vote for and like support them and their ideas from the pulpit. And there are certain things that are just moral evils, right? Like when we're talking about abortion or something like that, we're not, I'm not saying, hey, never talk about abortion or something like that from the pulpit. But you will feel a lot of pressure, and you should just, as best as you can, ignore it, because as much as you might think you're like the cool, the cool guy who's like really sticking it to the man and really like you've got courage where no other pastor has ever had courage to say the political thing. What you're actually doing is what Matt Chandler's doing, where you feel really cool in what you're doing, but it's really cringe inducing. What you will find at the end of the day is that you'll look back, you'll say, that was so cringy of me to do that. But there's a way of trying to convince yourself that this is actually a courageous move. It's not. It's not.
And that, of course, doesn't mean. Okay. And that, of course, doesn't mean our goal. My son wanted to hear you say that. So he needed a. But again, this is part of my no black pills anymore. But this isn't because we don't want to disciple magistrates and politicians.
No, but because I want to disciple them.
But because our discipleship isn't what needs to change in this party since the 1970s or whatever. So,
and what a waste, by the way, what a waste of time from the pulpit.
Of course.
You have the pulpit of God, right? You're preaching to the people of God. Well, in
Matt Chandler's case, he doesn't have a pulpit. He just kind of stands on a big stage.
That's true.
Do you think he's got a big teleprompter? Or does he literally yell for 40 minutes?
Dude, I don't know.
Which, again, I'm sure he has some kind of teleprompter with notes, but I mean, like, good for him. Like,
he probably has a stool that has a Bible open on it, and every once in a while he walks back to it to look at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. All right, let's listen to him introduce this sermon series, Thrones and Thorns. Sorry. Thrones and thorns.
Thrones and thorns. Thrones and thorns. Thrones and thorns.
Let me just go on record. What a bad sermon series title. Matt Chandler, what happened when you were just preaching through books of the Bible? Because
here,
George
one of
Soros
our
doesn't pay for
visions
that.
at the Village Church is we want to be a place that resources liberally the Big C Church of Jesus Christ. And if by his grace we might leave a kingdom legacy with those resources, we want to be all about that. And so thanks for watching
does
this
that even
sermon, or
mean?
preparing to watch
know.
this sermon. I'm praying that you're watching this in community, in conjunction with your ongoing discipleship at a local church.
we are.
And if
We are.
by the grace of God, this becomes one of those things that continues to build up your faith, encourage your
It
walk,
does.
fuel
It
your love for
doesn't.
Jesus, would you consider giving to the ministries of the Village Church? It's actually really simple. You can either
Bold.
do it in the
Wow.
app, or you can go to
No
thevillagechurch.net
Wow.
/give and do it there. I hope that the next
Wow.
chunk of time as you watch this sermon, you find
I did not expect this sermon intro to be a I hope you are at a local church
I hope you're at a local church, but if this blesses you, you should be giving our church
to a
money.
mega church.
You
All
don't
right.
realize how much this costs to put on this
your affections for
production.
I
Jesus
don't know.
soaring.
Apparently not.
You find courage flood back into your bones,
Okay.
and you fall more deeply in
I
love
don't
with
like
Jesus
listening
than
to
you
these
are at this
people
moment.
anymore.
God bless you.
Okay.
All right.
We often believe there are empires to build and thrones to be overtaken.
Dude, they paid
We
so
build
much
towers
money
of
for this.
ideologies
It's
in the hope
crazy.
of touching the heavens. But our King has already come. His kingdom is everlasting. He was enthroned not through political acquisition or human inheritance, but through crucifixion. He did
Man,
not come to capture lands,
The
but
fact
hearts.
that you have people who are like, our king has already come, which means that we're not going to be political. So we're going to use our sermon series to talk about politics.
We're going to suppress Republican turnout.
And you don't even it's possible that these people are so dense that they don't see that, right? They don't think that's what they're doing. They're so propagandized that they don't realize it. Or they are being manipulative.
Yeah. All right. Let's.
Not to break enemy lines, but chains, addictions, and even bread. So we, the weary, now redeemed, bend swords into plowshares, hold tension, cling to the scriptures, pursue peace, and cultivate space for the temporary.
Everyone, we cultivate space.
Cultivate space is
Everyone.
it's starting to be the kind of language that I just hate more and more.
By the way, I would recommend, if you have a sword, as Jesus said, 2 is enough, but don't bend them into plowshares yet. Jesus said 2 was enough. And if this is coming to you through a ham radio, maybe find 1 more, and then Jesus will say 3 is enough. I give the same advice our Lord gave on the night he was betrayed, when he did not bring a political kingdom. I agreed. And he did not say to take your sword and make it into a plowshare.
Difference of opinion.
Oh. Perishing kings, imperishable kingdom.
Hello, church family.
Oh, wow. Who's
My
this
name is
guy?
Brad
Yeah,
George,
listen to
and
this.
I currently
I-
serve
I gotta go. I can't watch
Yeah.
this stuff. This is so, man. This is so bad. It's getting worse, right? Am I
Not
wrong,
getting
or
better.
were we at the point where we would have watched that 10 years ago and been like, man, that is cool?
I think I would have probably. I gotta imagine I would have thought that was. I don't know. So if today you know who the president is, or you don't, or hopefully all things are good.
Not on fire.
Yeah.
It'll be really sad when we've been making all these jokes about a post-apocalyptic future when the president isn't decided and then everything breaks into civil war. We're on ham radios. It'd be really sad if that actually ended up happening.
We would
And
be
here
sad.
we are in the past joking about it, and it still
Wait,
comes
you're
out.
saying political processes in peace are a good earthly value I should care about, and not just say no, it doesn't matter?
No, because our king isn't of this earth.
Oh yeah, I almost had a different.
Let it
thought
burn,
there.
baby. Let it burn.
I
Give me
almost
more
had
of
a
those
different
Toros
thought.
bucks.
I made the mistake of opening the last third of Calvin's Institute, which is all about the civil order. So what a weird thing. Well, everybody, this was definitely not suitable for everyone, but it was suitable for you if you're a patron. Thanks for supporting us. Catch you.